I believe IT is really going to be the backbone of everything we do as we go into the future.
She does not have a conventional MBA, yet she has been noted as one of the most formidable bankers in the country. Today we have with us Ms. Arundhati Bhattacharya. She is the CEO of Salesforce in India. But before that, she was the chairperson, the first woman chairperson of the largest bank in the country, the State Bank of India. From a PSU to a startup, maybe I don't know whether Salesforce can be qualified as a startup, but it's a disruptor, right? So what's the transition been like, and from a PSU mindset to a startup mindset, how did you make that happen?
Salesforce is very much like a startup. Okay, even today, 21 years later, it's still very much of a startup. It's evolving very, very quickly. Structures change, product ranges change, strategies change. So, it is very much like a startup. Uh, on the transition bit, there is one point which is very similar. And that is, even in the bank, I was trying to put the customer at the center of everything. So, it should be an outward in look, no matter what you do, whether it be the organization, whether it be the product, whether it be any initiative, it has to be an outside in kind of initiative. I think Salesforce has the same. So there I was selling financial services. Here we are selling IT services. But the fact is that the customer is still at the center. And we try and surround the customer by trying and addressing their pain points, not by creating products that we think are cool, but by trying and seeing what does the customer need and then going and addressing those issues.
What are the things that you're having to unlearn, and what are the things that you're having to learn and reorient yourself or orient yourself with, because this is a younger organization, you're meeting with different kinds of people, from ministers in Delhi to now entrepreneurs from Silicon Valley. So how are you reinventing yourself?
So, of course, one very big thing is the language itself. The language of the IT sector and that of the finance sector are not the same.
Mm-hmm.
You need to learn a different language. Also, the cadences, the way things are done, maybe the sales cadence itself, vastly different, absolutely different from the way we used to do it and the way it is done over here. So I have had to unlearn a lot of things, a lot of things that I had taken for granted. Because, here there are formal channels, there are informal channels, there are many ways of doing things. We had the same thing there, but, those were more systematic. The organization was very well laid out. Over here, the whole thing is very changeable and
Mm-hmm.
it changes very, very frequently. So you have to unlearn a way of doing things and learn the new way of doing things. I have to unlearn the fact that the employees that I used to address over there were of a generation that is far different from the employees I'm addressing over here. Here, the issues are far different from the issues that the employees had over there. So there is a lot of unlearning, in fact, but there is a huge amount of learning as well.
What is that innovating mindset, and what is that you tell your colleagues at Salesforce? Because again, it's in the technology. You're in the technology industry that's constantly changing, constantly evolving. So, what would you say is that DNA that is important for companies to be agile and adaptable?
The ability and the willingness to sort of step out of the comfort zone and to take on new things, new challenges, the curiosity and the satisfaction that it brings you when you learn something new, when you discover something that you didn't know. To have that curiosity and that ability to step out of your zone, I think these two things are very primary to ensuring that you have an innovative mindset.
Who do you seek inspiration from?
So, it helps if you remain grounded. This thought that I've seen it all and nobody can teach me anything more, I think that's very destructive. Because even today I think I learn stuff from my daughter. Okay, so you have to keep reminding yourself that there are thousands and thousands of people who know much more than you do, who are much more successful than you are, who can actually, who are contributing far more than you ever can think of. And it's always good to aspire to try and be your best self.
Did you ever question yourself when you decided to join Salesforce? What were the thoughts that ran through your mind when you were planning this shift?
As I said, when there is a heated discussion going on, and if you're not even understanding the language, you
Yeah.
can feel a little uncomfortable because you aren't sure that you've really caught on to what was going on. But having said that, I think the thought in my mind was that I believe that every single uh, initiative in the future, uh, and every single venture, whether it be a personal venture or a commercial venture, will need a very strong IT play.
Mm-hmm.
So IT is like the backbone. Without a strong backbone, you can't stand straight, okay?
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
you can't move. So I believe IT is really going to be the backbone of everything we do as we go into the future.
Mm-hmm.
And here I was being offered a ringside seat in one of the companies that's at the cutting edge of it.
Mm-hmm.
And IT has always excited me, in the sense about the power it has to bring solutions which otherwise escaped us. For instance, if you look at financial inclusion, we have been trying for it for 14 long years
Yeah.
before the Prime Minister Jan Dhan Yojana came about.
Mm-hmm.
Now, while the PMJDY was structured very well, was run like a project, very professionally. But what really helped us crack it was IT, was the fact that we had both the mobile communications
Mm-hmm.
and the Aadhaar. Without these two technological innovations, we
Mm-hmm.
still would not have been able to do the financial inclusion that
Absolutely.
we ultimately came about, did. So, I believe that the problems of our country, especially a country that is so diverse, a country with such a huge demography, a country where, you have people who can be world or global citizens, and you have people who literally, you have to take them by their hand and get them to put their fingerprint on a piece of paper in order for them to take out their money. A country with this kind of diversity, with this kind of depth of population, with this kind of challenges, the only way we can solve these countries' problems is through technology. There is no getting away from it.
Absolutely.
And being given a ringside seat to see how things were going seemed to be too good an invitation.